Throughout the 1970s, black rights, women's rights, and entertainment flourished. In the courtroom, desegregation was reviewed in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Swan v. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education. The purpose of the case was to address the 24,000 black students in their district, 14,000 of which attended schools with 98% black students. As a result, unanimously, the court ensured that the buses be sent to numerous white schools in order to transfer the black kids, evening out the white-to-black ratio. Not only that, but Denver underwent the first desegregation case of the North based on the different districts blacks and whites lived in. Keyes v. School District No. 1 argued that the schools of Denver were still too segregated, while Denver rebuked with the fact that it was due to the different districts whites and blacks lived in. Furthermore, schools put in the effort to change the attitudes of white students by enforcing black study classes, also boosting black pride. Black history was included in textbooks and standardized tests were looked over. Black English came to be known as the slightly different language blacks had versus whites. In 1977, Black English was ruled as a language in the court case of Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School versus Ann Arbor School District Board, ruling that teachers must learn to speak the language in order to better accommodate black students. Moreover, blacks were not the only inferior people to hit the spotlight. Women climbed the ladder in 1976 when Barbara Walters joined ABC News as the first woman to co-host the network evening news. Not only that, but the first women's baseball league came to be in the 70s. Further in the sports entertainment, primetime football emerged along with three famous horses: Secretariat, Seattle Slew, and Affirmed, each winning the Triple Crown in horse racing. In addition, Jaws, Star Wars, and The Godfather were released between 1975 and 1977, resulting in the Golden Age of film. These movies were accompanied by popular character Archie Bunker, along with a show called MASH set during the Korean War, All in the Family, Charlie's Angels, The Partridge Family, and Dukes of Hazzard. The era of the 70s embodied the vision of music through Disco Studio 54, which directly influenced different fashions, language, dances, and drugs. Unique styles were shown through the costumes of music groups, The Village, and ABBA. The 1970s was a decade of social advancements for blacks and women's rights closely mirrored by the growth in entertainment. Mamma Mia! Numerous artists have since then made their own versions.
Times of trouble, Mother Mary.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that.
The 70s were not only a time for its social aspects flourishing, but also known for its political attributes. To begin, President Nixon set the tone for the 1970s. America, for the first time in history, watched as the president led them into war, empowerment, deceit, and downfall. To begin, Nixon led America into the Vietnam War with misinformation regarding the circumstance at hand, escalating the conflict with secret bombing campaigns. Nixon's reasoning for the Vietnam War was to prevent the spreading of communism. Despite Nixon's positive propaganda for entering the war, many civilians argued differently. Student protests began sweeping the nation. One in particular will live in infamy. That is, the shooting at Kent State University on May 4th of 1970. Nation Guardsmen opened fire on the peaceful demonstrators, wounding many and killing 4. To this day, 4 memorials still stand in the place of the shooting. This, along with many other circumstances, led Nixon to the realization in 1973 that despite America's best efforts, the future was becoming a bleak one, and began overseeing the ceasefire in North Vietnam and the withdrawal of troops. Nixon, already having a major strike, began to continue on the path of disappointment with the Watergate scandal. Watergate was the recovery of tape recording conversations between the president and his advisors regarding all of the illegal activity of his presidency. This included the funneling of budget money into an account in Mexico to pay for espionage activities endorsed by Nixon. At last, the scandal was so immense that it forced Nixon to resign on the 8th of August in 1974.
Of America first. America needs a full-time president. and a full-time Congress, particularly at this time with problems we face at home and abroad, to continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication would almost totally absorb the time and attention of both the President and the Congress in a period when our entire focus should be on the great issues of peace abroad and prosperity without inflation at home. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
Although Nixon did have a rocky presidency, he did have one lasting positive effect. He was the first president to open the door to the Soviet Union, which began the talk on arms control, penning the SALT-I treaties, which restricted the development of nuclear arms and helped ease the U.S.-Soviet relations. Nixon's presidency also saw the passing of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. The outcome was the first trimester abortions now became legal. This has shaped our society ever since. A pro-choice or pro-life argument can change an election in a person's life. Additionally, another event that has become a current world issue would be the ongoing conflict between the Israelis and Palestinians. On September 5th of 1972, at the Munich Olympics, a group of 8 Palestinian terrorists belonging to the Black September organization broke into the Olympic Village and took 11 Israeli athletes hostage in their apartment, killing 2 of the hostages in their apartment after fighting back. The subsequent standoff in the Olympic Village lasted for almost 18 hours. Gerald Ford became the 38th President of the United States after Nixon resigned. This is the only president not elected to vice president or presidency, but elected to both offices. Spiro Agnew was Nixon's first vice president, who resigned, leaving Ford to take his place. Nixon later followed in Agnew's footsteps, once again leaving Ford to take responsibility. His president was fairly relaxed, yet there were still 2 attempts to assassinate him. Charles Manson, a 60s cult leader whose crimes finally got convicted in 1970, sent one of his followers, Squeaky Fromm. Although she pointed a gun at Ford, no shots were fired. Thus, follower Sarah Jane Moore was sent by Manson to go through with the assassination, ultimately shooting the president, but fortunately only wounding him. The 1970s was a time of political unrest overseeing the only president resignation and making a time where citizens spoke out against the government.
Your money.
The 70s truly come alive with technological advancements, as well as stimulating more money into the economy with computers. The microprocessor is introduced and is basically the foundation of all computers, or just about anything electronic, as well as floppy disks and email. Henry Sampson continued to develop communication, credited for the invention of the cellular phone by his invention of the gamma electric cell, breaching new means in communication and in the economic world. Nike, being released in the summer of 1971, quickly became the necessity for the average American teenager, wanting to create their own identity through Nike apparel.